sutranas of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, do not allow yourself to be troubled or discouraged by any difficulties, but quietly and simply open yourself to the Divine Mother's force and allow it to change you. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 6, The Book of Fate, Canto 2, The Way of Fate and the Problem of Pain, page 459. Adventurer through blind, unforeseeing time, a forced advance through a long line of lives, it pushes its spearhead through the centuries. Across the dust and mire of the earthly plain, on many guarded lines and dangerous fronts, in dire assaults, in wounded slow retreats, holding the ideals ringed and battered fort, or fighting against odds in lonely poles, or camped in night around the bivouacs fires, awaiting the tardy trumpets of the dawn, in hunger and in plenty and in pain, through peril and through triumph and through fall, through life's green lanes and over her desert sands, up the Baltimore, along the sunlit ridge, in serried columns with a straggling rear, led by its nomad vanguard's signal fires, marches the army of the way lost God. Then late the joy ineffable is felt, then he remembers his forgotten self, he has refound the skies from which he fell. At length his front's indomitable line forces the last passes of the ignorance, advancing beyond nature's last known bounds, reconquering the formidable unknown, beyond the landmarks of things visible. It mounts through a miraculous upper air till climbing the mute summit of the world, he stands upon the splendor peaks of God. In vain thou mournest that Satyavan must die. His death is a beginning of greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity. A vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. For out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. Time's unforeseen event, God's secret plan. This world was not built with random bricks of chance. A blind God is not destiny's architect. A conscious power has drawn the plan of life. There is a meaning in each curve and line. It is an architecture high and grand, by many named and nameless masons built, in which unseeing hands obey the unseen, and of its master builders she is one. Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo and our Divine Mother, taken from the compilations of the works of both our Lord Sri Aurobindo and our Divine Mother, book The Psychic Being, topic The Sunlit Way of the Psychic. These words are taken from Letters on Yoga, Part 2, topic Surrender by our Lord. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says there are always two ways of doing the yoga. One, by the action of a vigilant mind and vital seeing, observing, thinking, and deciding what is or is not to be done. Of course, it acts with the divine force behind it, drawing or calling in that force, for otherwise nothing much can be done. But still, it is the personal effort that is prominent and assumes most of the burden. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the other way is that of the psychic being, the consciousness opening to the divine, not only opening the psychic and bringing it forward, but opening the mind, the vital, the physical, receiving the light, perceiving what is to be done, feeling and seeing it done by the divine force itself, and helping constantly by its own vigilant and conscious assent to and call for the divine working. Usually, there cannot but be a mixture of these two ways until the consciousness is ready to be entirely open, entirely submitted to the divine's origination of all its action. It is then that all responsibility disappears and there is no personal burden on the shoulders of the sadhak. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, when the psychic is in the front, the sadhana becomes natural and easy. It is only a question of time and natural development. When the mind or the vital or the physical consciousness is on the top, then the sadhana is a tapasya and a struggle. The yoga is very usually a series of ups and downs till you get to a certain height, but there is a quite different reason for that, not the vagaries of the soul. On the contrary, when the psychic being gets in front and becomes master, there comes in a fundamentally smooth action, and although there are difficulties and undulations of the moment, they are no longer of an abrupt or a dramatic character. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, if the psychic is awake and in front, it becomes easy to remain conscious of the things that have to be changed in the external nature, and it is comparatively easy to change them. But if the psychic gets wheeled and retires in the background, the outer nature, left to itself, finds it difficult to remain conscious of its own wrong moments, and even with great effort cannot succeed in getting rid of them. You can see yourself as in the matter of the food, that with the psychic active and awake, the right attitude comes naturally. Difficulty there was soon diminishes or even disappears. And Lord Sri Aurobindo says in Letters on Yoga Part 2 and says, it is not the soul that suffers. The self is calm and equal to all things, and the only sorrow of the psychic being is the sorrow of the resistance of nature to the divine will, or the resistance of things and people to the call of the true, the good, and the beautiful. What is affected by suffering is the vital nature and the body. When the soul draws towards the divine, When the soul draws towards the divine, there may be a resistance in the mind, and the common form of that is denial and doubt, which may create mental and vital suffering. There may again be a resistance in the vital nature, whose principal character is desire and the attachment to the objects of desire in the vital nature, whose principal character is desire and attachments to the objects of the desire. And if in this field there is conflict between the soul and the vital nature, then the divine attraction and the pull of the ignorance, then obviously there may be much suffering of the mind and vital parts. And Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the physical consciousness also may offer a resistance, which is usually that of a fundamental inertia and obscurity in the very stuff of the physical, and incomprehension and inability to respond to the higher consciousness, a habit of helplessly responding to the lower mechanical, even when it does not want to do so. Both vital and physical suffering may be the consequence. There is, moreover, the resistance of the universal nature, which does not want the being to escape from the ignorance into the light. This may take the form of a vehement insistence in the continuation of the old moments, waves of them thrown on the mind, vital, and body, so that old ideas, impulses, desires, feelings, responses continue even after they are thrown out and rejected, and can return like an invading army from outside until the whole nature is given to the divine, refuses to admit them. This is a subjective form of the universal resistance, but it may also take an objective form. Opposition, calumny, attacks, persecution, misfortunes of many kinds, adverse conditions, circumstances, pain, illness, assaults from men or forces. There too, the possibility of suffering is evident. There are two ways to meet all that. First, that of the self, calm, equality, spirit, a will, a mind, a vital, physical consciousness that remain resolutely turned towards the divine, unshaken by all suggestions of doubt, desire, attachment, depression, sorrow, pain, or inertia. This is possible when the inner being awakens, when one becomes conscious of the self, of the inner mind, of the inner vital, inner physical, for that can more easily attune itself to the divine will. Then there is a division in the being, as if there were two beings, one within, calm, strong, equal, unperturbed, a channel of the divine consciousness and force, one without, still encroached on by the lower nature, but then the disturbances of the later become something superficial, which are no more than an outer ripple. Until these, under the inner pressure, fade and sink away, and the outer being too remains calm, concentrated, unattackable. And Lord Sri Aurobindo says, there is also the way of the psychic. When the psychic being comes out in its inherent power, its consecration, adoration, love of the divine, self-giving, surrender, and imposes these on the mind, vital, and physical consciousness, and compels them to turn all their movements Godward. If the psychic is strong and master throughout, then there is no or little subjective suffering, and the object cannot affect either the soul or the other parts of the consciousness. The way is sunlit and a great joy, and sweetness are the note of the whole sadhana. As for the outer attacks and adverse circumstances, that depends on the action of the force transforming the relations of the being with the outer nature. As the victory of the force proceeds, they will be eliminated, but however long they last, they cannot impede the sadhana, for then even adverse things happenings becomes a mean for its advance and the growth of the spirit, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo.
Thou wilt reign over all the earth with thy sovereign love, and the consciousness of men will be full of the light of thy serenity. This is the promise.
भुजगाभरणोज्ज्वला शङ्खचक्रधरां देवीं वरदां भयनाशिनी ॐ सर्वलक्ष्म्यै नित्या श्रीवीरायै नमः।
श्रीवीरायै नमः।
Meditations, July 1st, 1914. We hail Thee, O Lord, with adoration and with joy, and give ourselves to Thee in a gift constantly renewed, so that Thy will may be accomplished upon earth and in all the places of this universe. When we turn towards Thee, the thought is mute, but the heart excels. For Thou shinest resplendent in all things, and the least grain of sand may be an occasion for worship. We bow down before Thee. We unite with Thee, O Lord, in a love that is limitless and full of an inexpressible beatitude. Oh, grant this sovereign joy to all. Prayers and Meditations, July 4th, 1914. O sovereign force, O victorious power, purity, beauty, supreme love, grant that this being in its integrality, this body in all its totality, may draw near to Thee solemnly and offer to Thee in a complete and humble surrender this means of manifestation, abandoned perfectly to Thy will, if not perfectly ready for this realization. With the calm and strong certitude that Thou wilt one day accomplish the expected miracle and manifest in its fullness Thy sublime splendor, we turn to Thee in a profound rapture and silently implore Thee. Immensity, infinitude, wonder, Thou alone art, and Thou shinest resplendent in all things. The hour of Thy fulfillment is near. All nature is ingathered in a solemn concentration. Thou answerest her ardent call.